Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna continue our portfolio review. We're gonna look at a portfolio from a designer whose name is Matthew. So Matthew is a recent UC Irvine graduate who has a non-design degree, and he has recently got into UI UX design in the past year and had an opportunity to work at a company as the UX design intern. So let's take a look at Matthew's portfolio today and see what we can learn from it. So just a quick reminder, so I share everything about UX from interviewing tips to portfolio reviews on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in this type of content, please feel free to hit the subscribe so you won't miss any of my future content. Okay, let's do it. So I am currently on Matthew's landing page of his portfolio website. So overall, it looks pretty clean. Just doing a quick scroll over, it has a couple of case studies. First of all, there is a fun emoji in the header. There's typical categories from case studies, about, and resume, which are awesome. I think this is definitely, a very convenient and practical structure. So where you show basically the most important stuff about your project experience, then about yourself, plus a quick link to download your resume. The headline itself says, "Hi, I'm Matthew, a UI/UX designer designing to solve problems and create beautiful interface for people." I love it. I think this is very concise and also calling out a clear identity on yourself. You are a UI UX designer. And also there's a subtitle currently at Ingram Micro IoT. I guess this is probably what Matthew is currently working at. So the latest experience. Then there is a button about view work. Is this clickable? Yeah, looks like it's clickable. And then followed by a couple of cards here. Looks like there are 4 projects. A good combination of desktop and mobile experience. Starting by Ingram, which is a desktop, followed by Schedule for iMessage, and 2 more projects. I think the way how this card structure looks is very clear in terms of a hero image that really explains well like what platform this product is talking about, and a key line about, for example, the first one, Ingram Micro IoT, a redesign of Ingram Micro's global IoT website to improve the e-commerce user experience. So this one line language is very concise and easy to understand from a viewer's perspective. Then followed by a link to, looks like that can take us to the detailed case study of the project. So overall, I think the landing page is done pretty well. Now, like we always do, let's take a look at the project. So I think since we talked, most of the project reviews we've done in the past are focused on mobile experience. Today, I want to do something different. So let's take a look at this first project here, which looks like a desktop experience, Ingram Micro IoT. Cool. So now we're looking at the project page, reimagine a global e-commerce experience. I think this header is fine, but it's a little bit too much focus on the project or the business itself. Like for example, from a viewer standpoint, like what does it mean for Ingram Micro IoT? Maybe it's an IoT product. That's all I can get from this title. And then reimagine a global e-commerce experience. Again, this feels like the angle is still from the product or the company perspective of Ingram Micro IoT, but from a hire manager perspective, what I really want to know is what is the problem you're trying to solve here. Maybe if you can like think a little bit more about the subtitle to make it a more straightforward and valuable to convey your role from your lens about this project. Then looks like there are some links to, for example, View XD prototype or View live site. This is definitely helpful because View live site is powerful. That conveys this is actually launched. However, a little bit questioning about the hierarchy. This 2 button from visual standpoint looks a little bit out of the place from a like desktop experience. First of all, they look like presented equal, like both are primary button, the visual treatment, and also the spacing and position feels a little bit off. But I kind of get, I think View Live site, definitely, I think this should be primary. View XD prototype depends on how important you think it is. I will probably not gonna spend the time right now to click out of the project because I want to know what you have done on this case study. So for now, let's continue. I'm not sure what is this summary issue user research. Maybe this is like an index. Like, let's see if I click on issue. Yeah, so it takes me basically to the area talking about this topic about marketplace issue. So I think this is probably a quick navigation bar. So I can tap to navigate me to each section. But how do I get back? Maybe this button. Yeah, okay, this is very helpful. So I think this is, especially when your case study is getting pretty long, this is definitely something helpful to have. I think function-wise, this is definitely a helpful function to have, but also a little bit maybe nitpicking on this visual treatment. This is kind of not a typical, I think, way how subcategories are typically presented. Maybe you can take a look at some examples like on existing product on website when things like this are presented, like to help people navigate to different categories, how the visual treatment is typically applied. Doesn't mean you can't invent something new. It's just I think, it takes me a few seconds when I see this bar to actually understand what is this about. So maybe you can borrow some existing pattern to make this even more intuitive. Cool. So now looks like this is a landing. This is probably the hero image of this product. I think it's good you're trying to use a laptop mock to show this landing page, which is definitely a great idea to make it feels more real. However, the angle and the boundary here looks a little bit off. If you're looking at a real laptop, the rounded corner here, the treatment of the image looks kind of not treated accurately to how it should look like. So I will encourage you to take a second look to make sure, if you want, the point of using a laptop mock is trying to make sure it looks real, right? But especially if you're trying to do something like this, try to make sure it's as close as possible, like the corner treatment, the side boundary, leave some enough space on the corner and also the side to make it actually feels real. Then it goes into, I think, some summary. It's really, I think, helpful to have this kind of high level sum up, like what is the duration of the project, what are the tools this designer has used, what is the role of the designer, and who is the team that this designer worked together with. So this is great. On the left hand, I think this is talking about some background maybe about what the site is about. So first impression, the high level summary is great. Text is a little bit heavy. In this one view, it feels more like reading an article with a lot of helpful links, but it's a little bit also overwhelming with all the text. Let's see what it has. This is a self-service platform and single source e-commerce website for IoT components and solutions. It helps vendors, service providers, system integrators, resellers, and end users around the world to build a sustainable IoT practice. I see. I think if I am correct, this is talking about a B2B project. And I see this pretty common issue is, especially when designers are trying to showcase B2B project in a portfolio, one of the common mistake I see is try to talk too much about the product, the business. I totally get it. It's challenging for showing B2B project because it feels like it's more technical. There's more details involved. You have to explain. You feel like you have to explain everything. Otherwise, the user won't be able to know the project. However, it's not true. You don't have to tell all the background information what Ingram Micro IoT does, but focus on the key problem. First of all, what does it do? What is the problem? Similar as how you approach consumer products. What is the problem this company or this product is trying to solve for users? And be very clear on who are the users. And just unfold from there. So one thing I really like here is this designer talked about outcome at the very beginning. For example, here, this highlighted line, the new website is found to have an 11% increase in best practices, 16% increase in accessibility, and 11% increase in SEO. I love this. This is something so valuable and powerful for any UX design project. If you have data to show that your design impact, make sure you highlighted that. And I actually think it's a great way to show this at the beginning of the project. That is absolutely valuable and convincing. I think it's a big plus for your portfolio. So from there, it has marketplace issues. At the beginning, okay, talks about taking these high-level issues to mind, analyze the user research from reseller interviews and competitive research. This looks like probably a couple of high-level, like what are the key issues this designer has found out from, for example, limited visibility into user behavior, inconsistent content, updates are slow, unclear site purpose, and so on. Continue into next step, user research. Reseller interviews. So I believe it sounds like reseller is the target audience. Based on this research, what is the findings? Here are some pain points found from the interview. For example, I can't have my guys be true experts on more than about 7 things at a time. So this format, I think, is good to convey that, okay, what are some quotes? What are some first-hand learnings from the interviews you have conducted? However, what I'm really looking for is the key finding. What is the summary? What is your key findings from doing this whole research, and how does that lead to the next step of your design? Let's see what else we have. Competitive research. Okay, so looks like the designer has done also like competitive research between among different products companies to understand below are the several recommendations and insights from competitors. Cool. Okay, I think this is actually what I'm looking for same as applied to the user research. Like what is your key insights after doing this research? For example, here the designer talked about search and navigation, call to actions. Like those are common problems that this designer has discovered by doing this competitive research. At the same time, I wonder maybe you can do something similar for the user research and present it visually, like what you have done to the this quotes, but instead of like just quotes or pain points from individuals in the interview, make it more of a synthesis, like what is the actual key findings. Either use bullet point text or make it like visually presented, like a visually fun way, using color in different ways, up to you. Then my main focus, okay, with the user research and competitive research, there are 4 main targets that I focused on to improve the website functionality. This is awesome. So the designer actually decided to focus on this 4 area in his design. For example, focus on user experience on lead gen, including call to actions to contact us and IoT solutions. Second, enable demand generation activities showcasing social proof. Third, improve key site metrics, and so on. Okay, I think the way that this designer explained this 4 key focus area is amazing. This is great before you actually dive deeper in the project. However, still feels like kind of text heavy, like we have just read a lot, like from the competitive research and user research, and now my main focus. I wonder if there's a way you can use even more condensed language, but make it feels like more focused on visual and simple words to really identify this 4 area without requiring your audience to read the full sentence. Like for example, just for the first one, maybe you can have one visual component focus on lead generation, and then followed by that maybe a secondary explanation of this full sentence. But the actual, to make it visually, like have a hierarchy. Like if I only like have 5 minutes to scan through this case study, I won't be able to read everything. Like, can I just see 1 or 2 words and be able to get what you are trying to do or focus on immediately? Then we have homepage. Okay, ideation and wireframing. So it gets into the design iterations. So focus on 5 different designs while focus on improving design, lead generation, demand generation activities, include sections to showcase success story and present social proof. Okay, this looks to me probably lo-fi wireframes of some of the design explorations. One thing I would encourage you to consider about is, I think, what am I looking at? Is this a landing page, or what is this page within this website? What is this page for? So give some kind of index or label here that can help the user know more about what they're looking at beyond just, okay, this is black and white or grayscale, lo-fi, wireframe, that's it. Yeah, and then as we continue, stakeholder feedback. Okay, after brainstorming 5 designs, I worked with, okay, now that I'm gonna look at this, this is probably talking about 5 different design iterations of the same landing page. Yeah, and in that case, this is okay, but maybe you can even make this even more clear by labeling that, okay, version 1, version 2, or have some type of arrow like indicating this is phase 1, phase 2, and how it's evolved. Stakeholder feedback. So the designer has got some like work with the PM, other stakeholders within the IoT team to give feedback and then address the user experience of various actions to push leads towards the contact page and solution page. I see. So this is getting to the high fidelity version, final design. Okay, this is good. I think this kind of label is what I'm looking for. I think it's really helpful. It's subtle, small little things, but it really helps like the viewer to understand exactly what they're looking at. And I think these final designs are presented pretty well. Looks like this is probably the landing page. It looks very clean, modern, and professionally done. What I will encourage you to do is, you talked about, okay, you were trying to get like feedback from the team. What are the feedback you actually has gotten and how did you address them? Like it's kind of difficult for me trying to grasp from looking at the wireframe, this lo-fi wireframe, to actually connect that with your hi-fi final design to understand, oh, this is what you changed, this is what the feedback you get, and what's your thinking behind, and what kind of change you have made to improve the design, to address those concerns. So maybe use some kind of call out or highlight the area that what you have actually changed to address those feedback to make it a better design. And then it goes to final decisions. Search and nav. Okay, this is probably talking about design system. Let me see. In my initial ideation phase, I wanted to improve the search process. And okay, with the nav bar, organize okay. So this is probably talking about redesign of the nav bar. There are some different versions, navigation, initial wireframe, revised wireframe, and then go into the final design. Okay, I think this is somewhat clear. With the label, this is the first initial design, some ideations here, and then followed by which takes the full space of the whole screen that shows the actual final design. Again, the same comment, I think, which will make the story even more powerful is try to indicate in the the final design, what you have changed. Or even in this, in the middle, in between revised wireframe. What I can see from this view without enlarge it is you are trying to make the hover state, which either click or hover state, which the actual subcategory is more than what the initial wireframe, and there are some visual, some image involved. But I won't understand, what is this exactly, why you decided to change this and add more stuff here. And to actually explain that rationale visually well, you probably have this addressed somewhere in the story in text, but I didn't read it. But you know what? That's very possible for other hire managers too, who won't be able to read the whole story. How can you explain? Let them have no chance to miss the gold of the story. What are the design considerations you have given while you iterate from the initial to revise and to final? So that is the key part that I'm really trying to understand as a hire manager when trying to evaluate UX candidate is what's your design thinking process? And when you make certain changes or design decisions, what's the rationale? So explain that to me, and preferably in a very easy to understand, visually friendly way. That would be great. Now it gets to final decisions and search, wireframe, final design, and resource library. Okay, so I think this is probably talking about a couple of cases here. I think the designer is breaking this project into a couple of things that we have looked at. After search, now it's actually talking about a resource library. Is that explained upfront? Maybe it did, but I might missed it. So anyway, I think this is the resource library is maybe another site, part of the project that the designer has redesigned. So there's also wireframe, okay, and feedback iterations. Again, here, similar comment, how can you explain when you present the final design? What is your thinking behind? And how has that evolved from the wireframe? How does the wireframe help you? And why did the final design look like this? And what are some key decisions involved? For example, why you decided to show the landing page, sorry, not the landing page. How did you decide the resource page, the layout, this card position? What's the thinking behind of the structure? Now there's another part I think is contact us page. Okay, this is probably talking about how to get back to the business and get in touch. There are different ways. Contact your sales team, final design, success. Okay, after you submit your contact information, you get a confirmation. Okay, what else we have? Solution showcase. Is this part of this? I'm not sure. Let's see. As the website's main focus is the solution showcase, I worked heavily with the PM to bring high value to user by including several key features. Okay. Then there's also Wireframe to show the solution details. Then feedback. I think what can help here, it's great that this designer is explaining the story with his own perspective. However, I think it will be even more helpful if you can actually walk through, like, briefly, what's the process between initial to revised wireframe, and also on a very high level, what is solution showcase? This might be sounds like a silly question to you because you are the lead designer on this project and you were very heavily involved from the beginning to the end. But for a viewer, you know what? Like, I won't be understand what solution showcase means and why you're saying this is the website's main focus. If this is the main focus, why I'm seeing it here after you already showed like 3 different kind of part of the structure or part of the website, and now solution showcase come up, like what does the solution showcase is for? What problem is this part is solving for? So I think on a high level, explain what am I looking at, and explain that in plain language. Even this is a B2B project, but what problem this is trying to solve for resellers. So that will make it more clear. Then it goes into hi-fi. Okay, this looks very Polish. I have to say, I think the designer did a good job in the visual. This is definitely a lot of work involved, from concept to iterations to wireframe to hi-fi. It looks very professionally done, which I think can just make the story even stronger. Is really touch on, first of all, what am I looking at? What is the solution showcase? And also when you are showcasing the final design, that you spend so much time and efforts to make it perfect, like what are some thinking involved there? And you don't have to call out everything or explain everything, but the key decisions making or key changes that you have evolved from low fidelity to hi-fi, that will make the story even more interesting and valuable. Then there are branding and identity. So it looks like this designer has also done some work around design system. So this part talks about color, styling, typography. This is great. And followed by what I learned. Okay, learnings and after sales is always great and value adding at the end. Communication is key to growth. Challenge yourself to learn even if you fail. This is great. Cool, awesome. I think overall this is a very thorough case study, and overall pretty well done from both visual and storytelling. I think this designer has done a very good job to unfold the story from high level introduction, background, research, and then into the actual sections. Now that we're looking back, I think that is all fall under solutions, I believe. Yeah, under solutions, I think we have looked at homepage, we have looked at search and navigation, we have looked at resource libraries and other things. This is actually the part I wish, when we get into solutions, maybe there's a way you can have a kind of a quick intro. Okay, in this part, as we're talking about the main focus of my design work, we're going to look at these areas from homepage to search and others. So it'll be, I think, helpful to give some type of index or some kind of high-level summary of what I'll be looking at. I did not recognize it's actually breaking down in this page, by page structure, until I think we have gone through home, we have gone through research, and when I get to resource library, that's when I started realizing we're looking at this by smaller mini cases within the project. Yeah, but overall, I think it's very well done. One other recommendation or just a suggestion for you is at the end, I know that you have talked about impact at the very beginning, but at the end, since you have the data, besides the learnings and after sales, why not emphasize your impact and the design result again? After you have showcased all the design details of those sub-pages, what have you done to measure, to validate your design? If you have things like maybe to expand a little bit more on what you had at the beginning, 11% increase in best practices, and those kind of improvement, like with this redesign. And make this number bold, use color, like make it like stand out, and there's no chance for people to miss it. Like, this is a really important part, critical part. I'm gonna say this over and over again in different videos, but show and demonstrate your design impact. A key part of, I think, UX designer's job is not only solving user problem, but also drive business outcome. Like in reality, what you have done, how has that positively improved the product? And how did you measure that? I think it's a really valuable mindset for designer to actually know that, how to also like be able to set successful criteria in advance before you even start working on a project. So I would highly recommend you to add a little bit more towards the end of the project to talk about results, talk about impact, like we always do. Let's take a look at the About page. Oh, cool. About page has a nice picture about Matthew, designer, explorer, problem solver, coffee lover. Love it. Get in touch. Quick button to get contact with Matthew. Here is a short, brief paragraph talking a bit more about this designer. Okay, recent UC Irvine grad with, actually Matthew has an economics background. Wow, very cool. And background in graphic design and marketing. Cool. So it also talk a little bit about Matthew's past background, experience, and things that Matthew enjoy doing, outdoors and hobbies. This is awesome. Currently working at Ingram. Okay. And this summary is great. Skills, key skills, and tools. This is, I think, in a high level, always helpful for hiring manager to know, okay, does this designer have the core skills or familiar with the tools that the job is requiring for? And plus social media links at the end to get in touch with Matthew. I think this overall About Me page is pretty well done. This is all I have for today. Overall, I think Matthew has done a pretty good job in building his portfolio from landing page to case study and About Me page. Definitely a challenge when you try to explain a B2B project, and especially for a project that involves more context and background you feel like you need to explain a lot of things for the user to actually understand what is the product and the details about what you're working on. But at the same time, I think it's important to have that emphasis of your user mindset. Even if you're talking about the B2B project, still try to, especially for when you're talking about B2B project, try to use avoid the terminologies, avoid jargons that people who hasn't worked on this project or industry won't be able to understand. Instead, try to use plain and simple, straightforward language. And actually more important, not only what is the company trying to solve, what is actually more important is what's your scope, what's your role on the project, and what your case study is focusing on to solve the problem. So I think that will always help make a B2B project more intuitive. And again, I want to touch on the impact result that I talked about is for any design project, if you have any data that you have measured, especially for launch product, how did you measure the success? How did you validate whether this redesign or new design is successful or not? Definitely include those data. Be very comfortable to talk about how has your design changed the product? How has your design positively impacted the business? So I think that's definitely a key information, and also tells as a designer, you do have that business mindset to understand, okay, that product thinking. You're not just designing something to make it pretty, but you are designing something to make it useful, valuable. Yeah, I think that's all I have for today, and hope you guys find this kind of exercise helpful. Yeah, we'll have more fun stuff to come, and thank you again for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks guys, bye.